Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
Hey, we have a special guest today. Actually, it's a privilege to have her here.
It is.
Taylor Clement, who this past week was just installed as the new mayor of Southern Pines. Taylor moved here in 2007. I think 1 year before, or she came right after her husband came.
Yep.
What year were you married?
2009.
Okay, 2009. And lo and behold, the town that we all love now has a new leader at the helm with a perspective and a point of perspective that I think puts you smack right in the middle of thousands of people who love Southern Pines, but not for all the same reasons.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
And you started on the town council about two years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess the parliamentary procedure worked with you. You
It
were
did.
an investment advisor.
Yep. So I was in finance before, and I never really was interested in politics until I got into it and realized it's not a hard job. It just takes someone who cares and is
Yeah.
reasonable,
Yeah,
and will do the homework. And I found that it's something I really love doing.
yeah. A couple of years ago, you were on the radio show with Catherine Rucker,
Mm-hmm.
and the show was all about the Montessori school.
Yes.
And at that time, your boys, who are now, I guess, between 5 and 10,
Mm-hmm.
were younger, and you had just started enrolling them in the school. But lots has changed at Montessori.
It has.
But it got you into the scheme of things.
Yeah. So having a finance background, you get asked to be on a lot of boards
Yeah.
because everyone needs a treasurer and nobody wants to do it. So I kind of got my foot in the door in community service that way. And then my involvement with Moore Montessori, when we grew to the point a couple years in that we needed a new campus and Moore County Public Schools was selling the campus on May Street,
Right.
I was the one sort of tasked with the responsibility of finding a campus, and it seemed like a perfect fit. But it really turned into a county-wide campaign and a neighborhood campaign to purchase that school. We needed people to want us in that building because we had the money to do it, but we had to convince Moore County Schools and the town of Southern Pines to let us be there.
Right. Your oldest son is 10.
He is.
He's been at the school for 3 or 4 years.
So he's been at the school since kindergarten in 2018. So he is now 5 years in, 6 years in, I guess.
Wow.
This is his 6th year, yeah.
And
He is in 5th grade.
Okay. And you have 2 younger sons,
Mm-hmm.
age 7 and age 5.
Yes,
So they're all-
Augustus and Loudon.
So your day starts early.
It does. They turned me into a morning person.
Very
And I
early.
think it was good for me. Yep.
Tell me about the swearing in, the whole situation. What went through your mind? I know your eldest son, held a Bible for you.
He did. When I was sworn in 2 years ago, all 3 of them held the Bible, and it turned into a little bit more hectic than I wanted it to be. So they chose who wanted to hold the Bible, and Wilby did it. I think the example, I love the town, and that's what got me involved because I want this to be a service to the community that has really meant something to me. But when I put my hand on the Bible with my 10-year-old son holding it, all I can think is the example that it sets for my children and what it will mean to them
Right.
growing up in their own service to the community or to whatever organization they find a passion for.
Does your oldest son have an inkling or an understanding about what it is you've accomplished and what you're going to be doing? I won't go to the 7 and 5-year-old yet.
No, it's funny. So yes, I think my 10-year-old, I think he does have an understanding and a sense of accomplishment, but it also feels very normal to him. And for some reason, my 7-year-old is like my biggest cheerleader. The night of the election, when I parked and got out of my car, he was the one who ran across the street and jumping, and because they had been counting votes before I arrived
Right.
at the location, and he has the exuberance right now that my 10-year-old is a little bit more
Yeah.
settled and serious. But I hope they understand it. I hope it's not so normal that it doesn't mean anything to them.
Well, I think you are going to be a great role model for them
I hope so.
because they're going to see both their mom and their dad fulfilling roles that are maybe not considered perfectly traditional, but certainly it gives you latitude and flexibility, and
Yes.
they will benefit from that. By your own admission, you and Baxter are a very public couple.
We are.
And Montessori got you started getting involved in the nuances of committees and meetings, and it seems to me like you took to it like a duck to water. And you had a great role model in Carol Haney.
Yes. Yeah, Carol has been great. I actually, Baxter ran for town council. Do you remember that?
No.
He ran for town council.
When did he run for town council?
He ran in 2007.
In between his music sets? No, I don't remember that.
It was before Buddy Holly, right before Buddy Holly, I think.
Okay.
And he moved to town, and I think a lot of people saw him as a young, lively, energetic person, and so there was the recommendation that he get on town council, and he lost to Abigail Dowd. Do you remember?
I knew
Okay,
yes.
So that was the same time running, and it was actually when Mike Haney ran for mayor.
Yep.
And so I got to know Mike Haney because of Baxter running for town council.
Right.
And on election night, when Baxter lost by 100 votes, I think that we were disappointed, but at the same time realized that is not Baxter's place. Like, he is not meant for meetings and bureaucracy, and he's very much I mean, in a business leadership role, he does great in the guitar shop because he can inspire and lead and make quick decisions
Right.
and delegate. And then when it comes to town council or a government position, even a board position, sitting through long meetings and listening to people, I think it's just not where he's meant to be. And so he realized that very quickly after he was not elected. But I think it set something in place where I had a relationship and an understanding or knowing of Mike Haney and then Carol Haney. And Baxter and I, when Carol Haney was on election night or the day before election night, ran into her at the wine cellar.
Yeah.
And she invited us to her election night celebration party.
Yeah.
And so I have this on the side relationship with other people who've been in leadership or in town politics, but never really the involvement in an active way until more recently.
From what I understand, you have a working relationship with at least two members of the town council, Bill Pate and Ann Peterson.
So, yes, I did not know Bill very well until 2 years ago when I joined the town council. Anne, the same. I ran against her 2 years ago.
Right.
Being on town council, we all are so cordial and we all talk. And although we disagree, which I think is incredibly important,
Yeah.
we are respectful about it. And then when the meeting is over, none of it's personal. And the two of them both have a mind very different than mine. They are attorneys by training.
Right.
And I appreciate their perspective so much. And it's great to have them both on town council, yeah.
Right. So you mentioned the term politics, but really on a local level.
It's not really politics.
It's not really politics.
It's not. It's easy to fall into saying that, and then I
Yeah.
start thinking about real politics, and
Yeah.
we are not that.
No.
Even in the campaign, it's not political, really.
Isn't it? But it's true that all local politics are really so important, and they have nothing to do with the national.
Sure.
Right. And you do have a lot of passionate people who love living here. They love waking up in the morning. Even Carol Haney mentioned in the article that was just put in the pilot about this Rockwellian environment that Southern Pines has. And it's been, over the years, the last 5 or 10 years, it's been challenged a little bit with all the growth. And there are so many issues that come up. Affordable housing, one of them. People who want to live here are getting priced out of the market. And yet, you've got 5 generations living here, all with their own agenda, but all for what they believe is a betterment of Southern Pines.
Yeah, and I think everyone has. I have not come across somebody with an interest in the town who I think has bad intentions. I think everyone has good intentions and everyone loves the town. I think that sometimes people can get tunnel vision and that what they see as what is right for the town, they're often not seeing the other aspects of it, or the facets of the decision making. We have a lot of people who, as we reviewed the comprehensive long range plan, we started that process right after I was elected to town council. And it was part of what I ran on because people didn't like how the town was growing. And
Right.
what we found in that process is if you take our current regulations and send them out there 20 and 40 years, nobody likes the town. Like it does not, the regulations we have in place don't allow us to grow in a way that makes people happy. So we had someone come in and rewrite some of those plans. And it's so easy for people to fall into well, I don't like that future, therefore I don't want any change. And no change is a really dangerous thing for a town, as it would be for a person or a business. But for a town, when you stop growing or you limit growth to a strong degree, excuse me, you end up with high levels of gentrification.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean gentrification like the $50,000 homes being sold for $300,000. It ends up being the $300,000 being torn down and $1 million homes being built. And I think it's important that we have such a rich diversity and variety of people in Southern Pines now that we just need to make sure that we are growing in a way that reflects all of those people. It's a big ask.
You know, people use the word listening loosely. There are different ways to listen.
There are.
And my guess is that you have honed your skills and become a much better listener, truly a listener, not jumping back at someone waiting for your turn to speak.
Yeah. I'm not, and maybe it's lack of confidence, but I am not quick to respond to, if someone gives me a lot of new information, I will listen, try to absorb it, and try to make sense of it before I come back with a quick answer.
Right.
Because I think that what I've learned is sometimes the quick answer is not the right one.
Right.
And sometimes what they're saying and what they're asking for may be different things. And I think it's important to hear what's important to them and to glean that information out of what they're saying and then try to move forward with decision-making processes that are right for everybody.
Yeah. And balancing that with the fact that you'll have at the end of the day 3 council members.
I'll have 4.
You have 4.
Yes, so
okay.
we're at another one.
Okay.
We have applications open until December 15th to
Okay.
fill the seat that I left open. So it's only a 2-year council seat,
Right.
and it will be by appointment. The 4 of us will decide who fills that seat.
Okay. And you said, disagreeing is an important thing, but it's the way you disagree and it's the way you can converse to be constructive. What's in the best interest of the common good?
Absolutely.
And I want to come back. We have a lot to talk about. Commercial growth is one road. Residential growth is another. And there are lots of people who are looking around and they're seeing a town, some of them that they cherish, some of them that say, I don't know this town. You're coming in at a time that is so highly energized with growth all around. Critical time in the growth of Southern Pines as we become more urban a little bit, and yet that small town charm is so important. You have to be a gymnast and an acrobat and do a balancing act.
Yeah.
Taylor Clement is our guest for the hour. She was just installed as a new mayor of Southern Pines. How long is your term for?
4 years.
Great. We're going to have you back on sometime between now and then for sure.
That sounds great.
This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our second set of All Things Moore County. Mayor Taylor Clement. I guess get used to hearing that, right?
It's going to take a while to get used to it. Yes.
Let's talk about the charming downtown center of Southern Pines and work our way out, because people drive through the town where you live, by the way, in downtown, and they feel like they're back in a Norman Rockwell portrait of America.
Yes.
And there's a charm. You see generations of people shopping together. There's a warmth, and it's been very well preserved, and that's the intent, I guess, going forward.
It is. We have a historic commission for the main 8 blocks downtown. There are pretty strict regulations on what can be built and what can be changed because they are historic buildings.
Right.
We're doing some other locating historic buildings and putting landmarks on them to make sure that it's not just the main downtown. But for anyone who's listening and doesn't know, we own a guitar shop downtown, so right near the corner of Pennsylvania and Broad. We live above it, so we are literally, and that's, I guess, reflects on your saying that we live in the public life. We are downtown all the time. We walk our kids to school, walk across the street and get coffee.
Right.
And it's when people come into Southern Pines, and I think when people think of Southern Pines, they think of the downtown. They have this vision of the turn-of-the-century buildings that are brick, painted or not painted, and a very walkable, welcoming community where you can stroll up and down the street, over the tracks. Maybe a train goes by while you're in a coffee shop.
It's a nostalgic town.
It is.
Right.
It is. And I think people love it. They feel like they're stepping back in time because we have preserved that historic feel of downtown Southern Pines.
Exactly. Now, so we, and as real estate brokers, many of us we love giving people a tour of the town, up and down and around the tracks, and all that the town has to offer. The outlying areas where we're seeing a lot of commercial growth, everyone can't wait for Target to come in, and yet so much land has been earmarked for these shops and these stores.
And trees have come down, and I think that upsets a lot of people.
And people shop online a lot.
Yes.
And you don't have the same demands for parking.
You don't.
That maybe 15 years, 20 years ago.
Yep.
You
Well,
would.
we just had not First Friday. We just had Black Friday just over a week ago.
Right.
Is my calendar off? A couple weeks ago. I can't remember now.
Yeah, you're right.
It's been a busy couple weeks.
Yep.
And not that I'm a Black Friday shopper, but being out in the community on Black Friday, those parking lots were not full.
Right.
And so I think we are seeing a change in the way people shop. And I think that we need to see a change in the way the town develops as well. Because I don't think the sea of parking is what brings a good feel to anyone, whether they are out there walking or shopping. Part of what people love about downtown, and although they complain about it, you love that it's not a huge parking lot. So you have to make a couple circles around the block to find your spot. You have to maybe walk a block or two to get to the store you're going to. But it's part of that feel of being outside and in that open space. And I think that as we develop, we need to start looking at how, not replicating downtown Southern Pines by any means. I think that would be impossible and maybe to the detriment of downtown Southern Pines. But how can we promote community rather than promote shopping or rather than promote developing? And I think a lot of it's going to be mixed use development. And I think if you can have people living by where they shop and having dinner or getting groceries, all of that in a smaller area,
Right.
I think that we're going to see reduced traffic, and I think we're going to see reduced parking lots. The parking lots, every developer that comes in right now, because of COVID, what happened is it used to be we need places for everyone to park. Right. And now it's we need a place for everyone to hop in the drive-through. And so they have these enormous parking lots in the enormous drive-through. And if the drive-through is full and the parking lot's full, the business is not big enough to service all those clients. And I think everyone's doing it to make sure that they are safe in the future of whatever may happen. In trying to please an open end, I think it would be smarter if we have a goal in mind, which is have people park, have them hop out of their car and go in. I think drive-through space is going to make sense for everybody as well. But if we can promote that walkable communities a little bit more, I think we'll find that it actually adds so much to the character of some of the areas that are developing where people feel like there isn't character.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like another town. It feels like Cary or Raleigh or Fayetteville.
Yeah, it does a little bit. I mean, some people will say that the landscape of Southern Pines has changed, and yet the nostalgic part of Southern Pines, it has not changed. Has only become more valuable.
Yep. I think it's there. It's absolutely there. We just need to make sure as we allow development, it's very intentional what that feel should be. And I think focusing on people instead of focusing on cars is going to maybe change our perspective on a lot of things.
The secret's out about Southern Pines.
It is.
People are knocking down your doors wanting to come here. The corridor between here and Apex is going to get shorter and shorter. Sanford is exploding. Highway 1 is going to be it's going to be an express train up and down north south, and Southern Pines is at that southern tip.
We are.
Right.
And I think that the commute from us to businesses is not far.
Right.
I mean, whether it's some of these new VinFast or Toyota plants that are coming in or all the way up to Raleigh, an hour drive for somebody in Raleigh is not a long drive.
Right.
Because most of it's not in traffic.
Are you getting are you getting nibbles from people, from businesses who want to come here that you can that nothing has been done yet, but I mean there are more people who want to come in and open up businesses here.
Yeah.
What's the position right? There seems to be so much growth
There's
going on.
so much.
I mean, it changes every 6 months.
Yeah, it does. Our planning department they receive so many applications that they are constantly bombarded with all the things that people want to do.
Right.
And I think of it as this big funnel of they start with people throwing the ideas at them, and then it gets down to the ones that are serious ideas, and then they further narrow it by, okay, well, this is what's allowed in whether they can find property to do what they want to do, and then on that property, this is how we want to allow development, and it will further narrow down into if they are able to meet our development requirements, and at that point, it finally comes to the town council. So if you come to our meetings, we see a lot. There's so much more. There's probably 5 times what we see that comes to our planning department. But I think we have great people in that department who have a real vision for what Southern Pines is now and what it can be. And I don't mean to change Southern Pines. Part of what it can be is that character progressed forward, but protecting the character. And I think it's hard to envision when people are so anti-change and anti-growth. But I think that we can grow. I think that it just takes some real tight management of that growth and holding people to a standard. But Bill, how lucky are we that people want to be here and they will jump through hoops to be here?
Yes.
Because when Caribou Coffee comes and they say, well, we want to be in this location, and we say, well, this is what you have to look like, and this is what we will allow for parking, and this is what we allow for your design standards and how it fits into our community, and they say, okay.
And they'll do it.
And they'll do it.
Yes.
And if they don't, the next person who comes along will. And I think we're in a great position to control our future. We just have to be very steadfast in the conviction that we can do it. Because the minute we start saying, okay, well, we really like Target, so we'll do a little bit less. Or yes, you can do a little bit more of what you want because we want you here. And I don't think we have to do that right now. I think that we have the ability to be very picky.
Yeah, I agree with you. People do want to be here. We're very lucky. We're finding from the real estate part of what we do, people are getting priced out.
Absolutely, yeah.
Of living here.
I'm so thankful that we bought our home when we did.
Oh my gosh. People,
it's scary right now.
They take a job at First Health and they cannot live in southern Moore County.
Yep.
So they go to Hope County, they look at even Lee County. it's a problem.
It's a problem, and it's dangerous, because I think that if we are unable to support our nurses and our teachers,
Right.
we're going to start to see Southern Pines slowly falling apart as well. I mean, without good nurses, we're not going to be able to retain good doctors, and First Health is not going to have the strength it has right now. The same with our teachers. We're trying to raise the next generation of people to lead not just Southern Pines, but our nation, and we need to make sure that they have good teachers who can live close by. You're shaking your head like you need to go on a break soon, so I don't want to start talking. Do I have time?
No, you have time.
Okay, good.
I'm just, yeah.
I was going to say, part of, I think, the housing crisis that we're seeing is part of the solution, and it's a very delicate balance, because I think you don't want to be in the position of any development. You don't want to promote a ton of apartments or a ton of new houses, or just a new sea of suburbia. I think that what we can do is, when I said earlier the mixed use, I think variety of housing is also a really big answer. I think that you can start to see areas become a little bit more dense without, I mean, if 50 people downtown add a second dwelling in their back, like an accessory dwelling unit, something like a above the garage, or a mother-in-law cottage in the back, what you've done is you've replaced the need for 50 other apartments. And that 50 apartments you replaced is a piece of land that you have saved for something else, whether it be trees, or parks, or some other development. I think that if we can get creative about how, I don't think everybody wants a 2-story house with a garage and a front yard. Baxter and I don't mow a lawn ever. I love it. But I think that a lot of people are stuck in this, well, the houses need to look like this, and therefore we have to clear 50 acres to build that. And it becomes unaffordable.
Right.
And really, with the limitations on our land, it's unattainable.
Right. And there's less and less land
Absolutely.
to do it on.
Yep.
Let's come back, third set, one more set. I want to keep you here more, but I can't. We're talking with Taylor Clement. She is the newly elected mayor of Southern Pines. She is embarking on a very challenging but hopefully very rewarding position in the town of Southern Pines. This is All Things Moore County. Welcome back to our third and final set with Mayor Taylor Clement of Southern Pines. You are embarking on a 4-year term at a very exciting time in Southern Pines' growth and evolution into what we're becoming. It's interesting, in just a few very short months, the U.S. Open is going to be at next door Pinehurst. And it'll be an opportunity for a lot of people to be introduced to Southern Pines at the same time. But Southern Pines has actually become a very important golf center as well with the U.S. Kids Golf.
It has. And I think that so U.S. Kids Golf happens at Longleaf.
Yeah.
And we've had LPGA tournaments here as well. Southern Pines has its own place in golf. It's not the U.S. Open, but I think that we should really capitalize on the fact that we have U.S. Kids Golf brings people from all over the world, and it brings them into Southern Pines. It brings them into all of Moore County, but I think it's important that we showcase our town for its strengths, and I think that's absolutely one of them.
We have more people who come here from the Northeast, from Canada, from the upper Midwest, and they are drawn to the eclectic nature of Southern Pines and the fact that it's so balanced. There are beautiful golf courses. There are great areas, artists, writers, and there's a cerebral part to Southern Pines that I don't think a lot of people appreciate.
Yeah, I think so. You said artists at the same time that I wrote down arts.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, Southern Pines, it's an eclectic mix of people, a lot of whom have moved from other towns. We have an incredible amount of talent in our community. And for anyone who came to the St. Hills Community College's 60th birthday or anniversary on Monday night, this past Monday, there were a couple people showcasing some of those arts. I mean, you can see it in Pine Straw Magazine. You can see it in the music that's in this, downtown Southern Pines scene. We have live music in several locations on any given night.
Yeah.
And I think that's some of the culture that differentiates us from Pinehurst. And I think that
Yes.
that's part of the character that we do need to embrace is this,
Yes.
there's a youth and vibrancy to it, which
Yeah.
is important.
I've lived in Southern Pines for this is my 24th year, and I fell in love with the town in the very late 70s, and the love affair hasn't changed. And as a matter of fact, I embrace it more the older I get, and I appreciate what people who come from out of town see. I can see through their eyes because it reminds people of the towns they grew up in as children.
It does. Yes, that is exactly it.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, the fact that we live 2.5 blocks from our library downtown,
Yeah.
I can send my 10-year-old to the library. And I feel safe doing it because we live in a town that it has a feeling of times gone by, and there's a safety that comes in that's, I think, really important to protect. I'm going to jump back real fast to the U.S. Open.
Yes.
You mentioned the U.S. Open coming to Pinehurst. Tom Pashley, in a presentation, said it's 100,000 people who will come to Moore County for the U.S. Open. Moore County's population is 100,000.
That's right.
And they may not all be here on any given day because I know the tournament's long. But it won't just be Pinehurst who feels that. I think it's going to be an economic opportunity for all of the surrounding towns in Moore County. And it's something that we need to capitalize on. You mentioned traffic earlier, too. Do you want to touch on traffic?
I do.
Okay, so
Yes.
what else did you write down?
Water
Okay, water.
and garbage.
Garbage.
These are important things.
They are important. You try to get people out there to vote in
Right.
municipal elections
Right.
because the things that are so important to our day-to-day life, our water, our trash, our library, our
Right.
our parking and traffic downtown, all of those things are handled at the local level.
Right.
And it somehow still seems hard to get people out at those polling locations. I will quickly say on traffic that Moore County, despite many people not wanting to be a metropolitan area, because of the 2020 census, the southern part of the county was designated as an urban metropolitan area.
Right.
And we now have federal funding for traffic planning, for comprehensive traffic planning. And it's something that I've had the opportunity to work with some of the leaders of Aberdeen, Pinehurst, Whispering Pines, Taylortown, Foxfire, just some of these surrounding areas and talk about what's important. And I think that as we see even if we close our doors and said we want no change and we don't want growth and we don't want new people, which I think is a very selfish idea, but if we did that, we're going to become a donut hole where everything around us will grow. And so when we sit down with those other leaders and have required comprehensive traffic planning, I think we're going to see huge benefits for all of Moore County.
Well, the goal of required traffic planning, comprehensive, is for less traffic, not for more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It should be traffic that makes sense
Right.
and therefore feels like less.
Right.
When we throw all the traffic down one or two roads and we build suburban neighborhoods and commercial shopping districts, what happens is every morning everyone wakes up and they drive to work, and then they drive to the stores, they drive to get food, and then they drive home. And if you don't plan out those areas and paths, and Moore County is doing some comprehensive land use plans as well to sort of rethink how Moore County should grow as a whole. But if we can integrate some of those items together and be smarter about where they're driving and when they're driving, it will feel like less traffic.
And taking that word density,
Yes.
that's a very important word in terms of deciding where the growth goes and where it doesn't go.
Yep.
Right?
I heard something, and I'm trying to remember if I can say it correctly. People hate sprawl,
Yeah.
but the only thing they hate worse than sprawl is density. And it doesn't make any sense because you can't have neither. And I think that you can do density in a way that doesn't feel like 10-story buildings and traffic issues. I think that we have the opportunity to do that, but we have to be willing to accept some density in order to protect some of the things that are important to Southern Pines, like horse country, our longleaf pines,
Yes.
our green spaces, which Southern Pines has many of right now. The
Right.
addition of Whitehall Park.
Yep.
Whitehall we've now combined with Reservoir,
Yep.
and we have the fourth largest green space in North Carolina. We are the only small town on that list.
Every morning, if you drive by the entrance on PD Road, off where Whitehall's side entrance is.
Is your car there?
Oh no, but there might be 30
Good.
people with their dogs. Their walking trails are right in front of them.
Yep.
It's 150 acres.
Yes.
It's huge.
It's huge, and it's a beautiful walking area.
Yeah.
Very recently, my kids and I have discovered there's a path at the end of Delaware Avenue that cuts into Weymouth, like the Boyd Tract. And so it's now like a 2-mile walk around from our house, big circle.
Right.
But with my 5-year-old, I can walk to be in the middle of trees where you feel like you're in a completely different world. And it's important that we protect those things.
Off Delaware, off the back.
Yes. So
that's
drive to the very end of Delaware, and where
That's
the
right.
road ends.
to the right.
Yes.
And
There's
you're
a
right.
little path.
That's right.
Yep.
Long term, you and Baxter have decided you've set down your roots. Your boys are going to be raised in Southern Pines. It's a different world than Baxter grew up here in Southern Pines.
He did.
But he left
Yes.
and he came back.
Yes.
Your boys' experience in Southern Pines, you hope, I'm sure, at the end of the day, is going to be something that they will take with them the rest of their lives.
I do. And
As a mother
yes.
and as a mayor.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. As a mother and a mayor. So I hope as a mother that my children will grow up, will leave Southern Pines, and then will come back.
Right.
Or want to come back, or when they come back to visit, or when they come back for holidays, I hope that they love it and know there's opportunity here. It's so important that they leave at some point in order to have some
Appreciation.
absolutely appreciation and experience and worldly exposure, and to bring those things back into Southern Pines, I think is part of what keeps us as a relevant and growing town. I went on a trip with my kids. We were driving down to Myrtle Beach, and on the drive down, you go through a couple different towns, and I'm not going to think of the names, and even if I did, I'd hate to call them out. But
Yeah.
one of my younger boys, 5 or 7, we drove through a town, and he said, "This looks a lot like Southern Pines." And I said, "You're right, it does." I was like, "Tell me why it looks like Southern Pines." And to educate them on the buildings or the layout or the parking or the things that have a feel of Southern Pines, and then say, well, what's different? Why does it not look like Southern Pines? And then we would get to the next town. So does this look like our town? What's different here? And you start to see that some of where economic opportunity was not available, the towns still look like Southern Pines. We are not far off from being a desolate town. Encouraging the economic opportunities and businesses in Southern Pines is part of what keeps us thriving. And hopefully, I wish somebody had done that to me as a child and I could have had some of that experience. I'm sure I had different ones that were also valuable. But it's neat to use what I've learned about urban development and town planning to point those things out to them.
You're in a very strong position. You're in a very enviable position to make a difference, to legislate the conversation in a manner and a tone and a tenor that benefits everybody. Because, like you said, there's so many people who love the town they live in, and that's your starting point.
Yes.
And keeping that intact, as long as everybody realizes we're all in it together, and not everybody's going to be 110% happy with every little thing. But what is the best long term for Southern Pines? What is the best for our growth? to increase our tax base, which, by the way, we tell people all the time, just so you know, they're hard-pressed to find a town that offers more value for the amount of taxes collected than Southern Pines in the state of North Carolina.
Yeah.
And I don't think enough people know how the services that they get for the money.
We run a very tight budget.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And we do not collect more taxes than we need.
Right.
Because it all gets spent. And I think it is every step of the way focused on the citizens. And that's what it always should be.
Yeah.
It's your taxpayer money.
That's right.
It should be going back to you.
It's a privilege to live here.
I agree.
Every time you get up in the morning, we look around and we say, we're so fortunate to live here. And you have a lot of people who are going to be standing behind you and supporting you, and we only wish you the very best of luck. And this show, this station, is open to you anytime.
Thank you.
Because you may have some situations that come up, you never know. Would always love to have you come back.
Yeah, thank you. I hope that I am always accessible to people as well, and if they feel
Right.
like they want to reach out, they can, or ask questions, or they feel like I've made a poor decision.
Yeah.
Because I think I can justify. I do my best research to make the right decision.
You'll know you're in trouble if your boys come up to you and have to make an appointment with you to have a conversation. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I schedule their time first, and then everything else comes after.
All the best. All the luck.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to have you on.
Bill, it was a pleasure to be here. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Taylor Clement, thank you. This is All Things Moore County. Have a great week. Thank you.